Hello, Kyra. How's it going?
It's going pretty good considering all things. Seen better days, but all in all, it's going pretty well.
Yes, well, I'm Taryn from RHAP as a podcast. I do an update every single morning on everything that's happening on the live feed. So I've been watching you for the last 69 days. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah. Wow, it got real personal real fast. You've seen me cry a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry for picking my nose.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It happens. How are you feeling with everything?
Honestly, I obviously am beating myself up over that last comp. It's hard not to, especially because Dane and I knew our days just as well as the other. And I had a feeling it would come down to the tiebreaker. And with that first one that I had wrong, I knew the answer was 3, but I hit this one thinking it was A, but it was switched around. And when I got that first one wrong, it just tripped me up, and I knew I would lose because I knew Dane was going to get every right. So that was a really rough moment. But I thought he was bringing me because 5 minutes before the comp, he said, "Don't worry, Kirsty, you're winning at least 20 grand today." And so I was like, he has no use in lying now, right? So I actually trusted him for the first time in 69 days. I believed Dane, and that's why I was shocked. But, I'm proud of making it as far as I did, and I truly believe I was probably the most improved player. And I'm blessed to have made it that far and to have used my voice as much as I did,
Yeah, we saw that when Dane cut you for Anthony, you were a little bit upset there. Yeah. It was mostly that he had told you right before that you were going to stay. Did he say after he won the comp that he was still going to keep you, or was he kind of quiet after that?
So after the comp, Dane went straight to the pantry. He didn't even look or talk to us. So I did find that a little bit peculiar, and I was gonna go up to him, but I was sitting next to Anthony. I was like, "What do you think he's gonna do?" He's like, "I don't know. I think he'll bring you." Blah blah. Even Anthony was still playing along, and that's to me what pissed me off. And at first, I was more upset with Dane, and then later, I actually felt even more betrayed by Anthony. Felt very played this whole game by that guy. But
well, you probably should. So we know that you were able to recognize that Anthony was a very manipulative player throughout the game. But do you recognize how much influence he was having over the decisions that you were making in the end game?
Oh, so are you talking about my decision to keep Dane?
Well, there were the few things like the nominations, the decision to keep Dane. I don't know what your decision was about who you're going to take to the final two. Yeah. But he was. I mean, at the very least, he was definitely trying to claim that he was having a lot of influence over those decisions.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, every decision I made while I was HOH was my decision. Yes, it was nice to have someone support it, and it definitely felt like a bit safer because I knew I was going to have people upset with me. But I wanted to put up Adam and Dane. That was my idea, not Anthony's. And that came from, what Dane did week 2. Week 4, he put me and Chelsea up because he didn't want someone fighting for another person on the block. And then Adam and I had multiple conversations where when I was HOH, he wanted me to put up Anthony beside Mark so that Anthony wouldn't use the veto. And that's when I realized I needed to put up Adam beside Dane. Anthony can take ownership as much as he wants. That was my decision on my own. But, his ego is the size of Canada. So he likes to believe that was him. And then keeping Dane, he definitely helped me stay on that track. But I initially, after I nominated the two of them and Adam had his blow up, Adam made it very clear that he was almost cultishly proud of the Pretty Boys. And it was just it was kind of creepy even. It was just he was it's a beautiful thing. Blah, blah, blah. And sorry. And it is a beautiful thing, but that showed his cards. That showed that no matter what, even if it decreased his odds of winning, he would keep the Pretty Boys together and cut me next. So that's when I started thinking oh my God, I might not be able to cut Dane. And if I can turn Dane against Adam, at least I'll have a chance to keep fighting. But it was only after the veto ceremony did I really fully decide that. And I ran it by Anthony and he was fully on board, which okay, great, Anthony, you think that was your idea. Actually, I had that idea before we even talked about it. But Anthony's going to try to take credit for every decision that I made that's just Anthony. But I had my own gameplay and I was making my own decisions this whole time. So I don't think Anthony had that much sway over what I was doing, but it was nice, you know, when I was alone to feel like I had support over my decisions during the chaos. He definitely swayed me enough for him not to be the replacement nominee because I felt good enough with him that I didn't feel it was necessary. Now, looking back, I should have gotten him out instead of Mark because I was very stressed at the idea of getting out Mark because I knew Mark was my best chance of winning $100,000. So realistically, I should have kept Mark around instead. And I even thought maybe get out Anthony. But when Anthony convinced me and lied to me that Mark was saying my name, I disliked Mark so much that I was just like, okay, let's just get out Mark, like keep Dane to fight back. But you know, in reality, that was probably the biggest mistake. I should have gotten Anthony out instead of Mark, and Dane would have still taken out Adam, and things could have been very different. But, you know, I felt close to Anthony, and I trusted him, and that was the downfall. And he was very good. He knows that I have a guilt complex, very big guilt complex, and he played to that. So anytime I questioned him, because I knew how manipulative he was, and I saw right through it, but anytime I questioned him and I brought it to him, he would make me feel so guilty for doubting him. And he really felt like a brother to me, and I actually genuinely felt bad. And he played to that. He played to my emotions very successfully. Nobody else did, but he did. But my decisions were mine and mine only.
How surprised were you to find out that Anthony had been secretly working with Dane, even within the Pretty Boys, as a final two since day two, and that the whole sort of thing was, you know, part of a plan? Actually, what happened that week was that Anthony was on board to take Dane out until Dane made a pitch to Anthony that was like 15 minutes long, showing him his study board, saying, "Bro, you need me in this game. I'm gonna take you." And then Anthony changed his mind and decided, okay, I'm gonna keep Dane instead of Mark. So they had been loyal up until the Corey stuff. Then they had kind of split apart a little bit, and then Dane was able to get him back on board. But were you surprised that they had been so close throughout the season?
Yes and no. So I definitely was surprised initially, but looking back, like Anthony always encouraged me to build with Dane, have a truce with Dane, blah, 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 blah. And like, I knew that they were closer than Anthony was leading on just because it seemed like Anthony was like somewhat trying to protect Dane always, and like kind of saw it, but like I didn't want to believe it because I really believed it was Adam and Dane that were closest. But that whole Corey thing, that was me. I went to Corey and Anthony and I was like, listen, the boys are trying to backdoor Corey. And I wanted to believe that Anthony was so loyal to Corey that he would feel betrayed enough by the boys that it would do what it needed to do and crack the foundation that was the Pretty Boys Alliance. Unfortunately, him and Dane were closer than I thought. And, you know, Sam and I couldn't communicate well enough with Corey to actually have it followed through. And that was our detriment. But I probably should have talked to Corey alone, share with her what Sam and I knew already and had known, told her about the back door, and things could have been very, very different at that point. But then maybe I wouldn't have made it to the final three. So who knows?
Has Mark told you yet that he was planning on taking you to the final two?
Yeah, he did tell me, and I would have won. That's the thing.
Did you ask the jury?
No, but I know nobody likes Mark. Sorry, Mark. But to be honest, like I even felt it in my gut that Mark would have taken me. But Anthony knew I didn't like Mark, and he really played on the fact that Mark would like turn around and be like, we need to get Kyra out next, blah, blah, blah. And I believed it somewhat because I knew that Mark now saw that the move I was making was a big move and realized that I would beat him in the end. So he wanted to increase his odds of getting 20 grand. So that for me was why it made sense as to why he'd want me out, because otherwise it wouldn't. But all in all, should have kept Mark, gotten rid of Anthony. But that's the biggest mistake I made this whole game. But, you know, you can't change what's happened. And I believed Anthony, and out of everyone, I am most bitter towards Anthony. I don't know if I'll be forgiving him for a very long time.
Well, so you were a vote for Dane over Anthony. Was that always going to be the case, or were you a little bit up in the air when you left the house?
Honestly, like throughout the game, I said it to Chelsea week 3. I said it to Sam. I think that Dane was playing a phenomenal game. Yes, he was lying a lot, but that's part of Big Brother. And he honestly, I looked up to him as a player. I saw him as a legend the whole time. A lot of his game strategies I developed as my own. Like there were a lot of techniques that he would use that I would take on. He like did this thing where he would tell like a little bit of truth surrounded by lies to make you doubt someone that you're working with. Because when you confront them, they admit to part of the truth, but then deny everything else. And you're like, well, you're denying the worst of it. So clearly, so it was brilliant. I started to do it. So thank you, Dane. But you know, all in all, I saw Dane as the better player. He was a completely well-rounded player, mentally, physically, socially. I had a lot of respect for the guy. And for me, what solidified it, because it was going to be hard for me to go against Anthony as my friend, but what solidified it was that last week in the competitions that Anthony was actually trying to win, and he didn't do well, and he gave up. He walked in that first HOH phase for the final HOH comp. Like when Dane was winning, instead of running across, he walked. In the Veto Hunter, the video game one, he like made a joke out of it because he knew his time was bad. It was a time did not complete. And the one that we faced off against each other for the final HOH, he gave up. Literally gave up. And to me, what makes a good player and an epic player is someone that pushes their hardest, whether they're doing well or whether they're doing badly. And resilience is very important in this game. And it made me lose respect for him as a player. And I knew he didn't have my vote then.
So I was at the taping, and I saw when you walked out and you were with the jury, I saw you talking to Adam and Mark. Can you tell me what conversations you were having?
Yeah, I told them, listen, guys, it's the Dane and Dougie show. And they were shocked to see me. They thought that Dane would have brought me or that I would have brought like Anthony. They did not expect it to be me. I told Mark I'm sorry. I told him I should have kept him and got rid of Anthony. And, all in all, you can't turn back time. So, I wish I knew then what I know now, but I played the best game I possibly could, and I'm proud.
I saw you on the morning show just now saying that you would have taken Anthony to the final 2 over Dane. Can you explain that decision a little more?
Yeah, so originally in the week, I actually was thinking I would bring Dane just because I wasn't believing myself a lot. And, looking at it this way, the pretty boys all made it to jury. So that means 3 votes are solidly for one of the pretty boys likely, right? So, and it would be easy for them to get one more. So I felt like my decision and who I would bring would pretty much be the sole vote to choose the winner of Big Brother Canada Season 7. So I felt like Dane deserved to win over Anthony. And so I was going to bring Dane at first. And then I started to believe in myself. And I started to think if I can actually win this last one and take out Dane and have an epic speech, which I did, I had a chance of beating Anthony. Even though the jury all said, they raised their hand that they would have voted for Anthony, I really think that I could have changed their mind, especially if I took out Dane and I brought Anthony. So...
Was there any point in time where you felt like you could beat Dane? Because I know you were talking to the cameras about that possibility at one point.
Yeah, I thought for a brief moment that, people would be bitter enough that maybe there would be a chance. But, in that house, you think a lot. You think a lot. You have a lot of time. And I thought about it and I knew the jury would not, I thought maybe, because I thought that there was more of a chance the jury would be bitter over Dane than Anthony. And so it's maybe that's my chance. But then I started to think about my game versus Anthony's. And I thought if I could take out Dane that I had a chance of beating Anthony. So that's when things kind of shifted.
You had some harsh words towards Adam, especially in the last few weeks of the game. Do you still feel that way about Adam, or has the game has ended? You have kind of okay, I'm out of that now. I don't need to feel the same way.
Forget what harsh word.
God complex, misogynistic pig.
Yes. Oh, I definitely take it back. He definitely has a God complex, but that's just because he knows he created a beautiful alliance. It really was, and he did a great job. I'm very proud of him. But Adam is an amazing guy. He has a huge heart. And, you know, like he's just a big goofball. Like he's not a bad guy at all. So I definitely do feel bad. I take it back, but he does have a God complex.
You came on the show as a non-binary person, and I can tell you, as somebody who talked about you all season long, every single day, that it was very great for me to get used to using the pronouns, and I think it was very instructional for a lot of the listeners and everyone who was getting used to how that worked and understanding your story and you when you explained it on the feeds to Chelsea and to Adam. That was a really great moment. How proud are you to be able to be that person to help educate people?
I am beyond proud. I think, growing up, I didn't have any role models or representation in mainstream media of like genderqueer people. And so for me, my struggle was very intense, and it was very hard for me to come to terms with who or what I was, and to not only accept it but realize that it was an option. Do you know what I mean? And so to come on this show and spread awareness and educate people and share my story is beyond anything I could have ever imagined doing. And we all want to make a difference, right? And I'm proud to say I feel like I'm making a difference. And I hope that I can keep doing that. And I hope that, anybody, whether you're queer or not, can relate to me and see that, we are all different. The longer that you try to fit in, the longer it's going to take you to figure out who you are. And that's just nonsensical. So might as well just be you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that message that you brought to the show, and like I said, it's been great for me. I think it's been great for a lot of the audience. So I was really happy to see you there. One last question about Dane.
Yeah.
What was it about him that just made him? He was able to betray people. He was able to cut their throats, and then they still loved him, and they wanted to vote for him in the end. He won unanimously. Yeah. What is it about Dane?
So Dane played a very sneaky and shady game, but at the end of the day, Dane wore his heart on his sleeve, and Dane had a very good personal relationship with everyone, and he's just a really likable guy. He genuinely does care about everybody, and that you feel that, and he's just so likable that he could be backstabbing and you're like, whatever, I deserve it, it's literally you could forgive him so easily because he's just that likable. And he's kind of like the goofy guy that you wouldn't see as the macho winner type, because Dane's short, he's got a receding hairline, he's not an Adam. He's not a guy that you would pick up and be like, oh, that's going to be the one that dominates everything. And I think we were all proud of Dane. Dane really did an amazing job. And he treated everybody like people. He was kind to everyone. At the end of the day, he made everybody feel accepted. And he played a great social game. And he's a brother to me. I love the guy. Good guy.
You've watched a lot of seasons. Where would you place him in the winner rankings?
I think he's one of the most deserving winners that Big Brother has ever seen. Hands down. One of the most
I agree.
Well-rounded winners. And I'm very proud of him. Played a great game. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great talking to you.
Great talking to you guys too.